So Trent Frederic is also going to Edmonton.
Oh, all right.
Wow.
That was just a short time ago. Frank Saravalli on the show on What Chaos with the bombshell that Trent Frederic headed to Edmonton. 3 legs of this trade. The first part, Bruins trade Trent Frederic, 50% salary retained to the Devils for Peter Hauser. Devils trade Frederic, a quarter of the total retained to Edmonton for Shane Lachance, prospect of the Oilers, playing at BU. Then the Bruins trade Max Jones and Peter Hauser to the Oilers for Max Wanner, the second-round pick that the Oilers got from St. Louis in the Philip Broberg signing, and Edmonton's own 4th-round selection in 2026. We will talk to Bob Stauffer in just a couple of minutes on this, but first just want to get your thoughts. You're a Bruins fan. I'm an Oilers fan. We both know Trent Frederic very well. He has been on the show. We know him. We love him. It's been a down year for him. What do you make of this move?
I like it for all 3 teams involved. I mean, the Oilers get a player that fits a need. They wanted to get tougher. They wanted to get a little bit more nasty on the back end. They get a guy who has some versatility. He can play on the left side. He can play down the middle. I think that works for Edmonton, and they're getting him at a very, very reasonable cost with basically 75% retained here. And so, yeah, good move. Very down year for Trent Frederic. So if you're the Bruins and you can get a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick and a prospect for that, absolutely. Max Jones was not factoring into their season whatsoever on a pretty horrible year for the Bruins. So good work by Don Sweeney, given the circumstances, flipping an expiring asset for good value. And then if you're the Devils, you get a pretty solid prospect for like almost nothing. You paid a little bit of money to get the rights to a prospect, and just good work on 3 sides here.
I agree with you that it's good for all 3 teams. I love it for the Bruins. They get a 2nd-round pick for a guy who is really struggling this year and that they weren't keeping anyway. I like it for Trent Frederic because he gets to try to restore his value, probably playing with Corey Perry. That is going to be one pain in the balls line. It hurts me a little bit for the Oilers because it is a little salt on the wound that you lose Philip Broberg and you end up using that pick to get an injured player who is trying to restore his value. Ideally, if you're the Oilers, you're using that 2nd-round pick to get something big and something great, but Trent Frederic can have a very big impact for the Oilers in the playoffs. He definitely gives them an identity and a grittiness that they've kind of lacked this season, but let's hear from an expert. Oilers news happens. We go to the Bob father. It's Bob Stauffer of the Oilers Broadcasts and Oilers Now. Bob, what do you make of the Edmonton Oilers getting Trent Frederic? You've talked about them wanting to beef up.
Yeah, well, they just did. I mean, you guys know Trent Frederic better than I do. Obviously, that said, I mean, I drive Louis DeBrusque home after every flight when we land back at Edmonton. We've talked a lot about Trent over the years, obviously with Jake playing in Boston. And, Trent was one of those St. Louis kids, and he's got a very specific and unique skill set in a game that we see, less and less of that over time. But, 18, 17 goals, last 2 full seasons, basically playing in the middle 6 in Boston, certainly provides the Oilers with a little bit of toughness. We'll probably see some time at center and at left wing. And, Stan Bowman, and he's going to probably do an availability later today. But the Oilers have been working on this for a while. There's lots of different, ironically enough, there's a couple different components into it. But from a pure player acquisition mode, the Oilers needed to add some size in their bottom 6. Trent Frederic will do that. Max Jones, we've got Anaheim here. He played a lot for Anaheim over the last 5 years. He'll be a depth option for Edmonton potentially as a 4th-line winger. But Frederic I see as a 3rd-line acquisition that might have a chance to play in the Oilers' top 6 at times when they need it.
How do you feel about the price? Two picks, a 2nd and 4th, and a couple prospects. Do you care at all?
No, and I'll tell you why. Lachance's father is the director, Scott Lachance, the former NHLer, is the director of U.S. scouting for the New Jersey Devils. And, I think you can read between the lines here. I know we've talked about this before, that the Oilers haven't had a lot of success signing, Boston area products. And so I do think Lachance I think he's still a project, but I think he's a pretty good prospect, so I understand why New Jersey was in the deal. And the Oilers, right now, with the addition of Trent Frederic, technically, because Boston ate half of the money, and then New Jersey ate another quarter, Edmonton can have Frederic in the lineup and have Evander Kane in the lineup on the active roster and still be cap compliant, and that was important. So the Oilers paid a carriage fee, basically with New Jersey. I don't know whether or not Edmonton ultimately. I think they're probably going to have to trade LaChance at some point, who's again a decent prospect that the Devils would know as well as anybody. And then a second and a fourth, and Max Warner. That's the cost of doing business. You didn't give up a first, but you gave up a mid-range second and a fourth in 2026. And then Warner got hit in the back of the head with a slap shot in Toronto, probably I'm going to think it was either late November, early December. And, he's had sort of I think he has a chance to play in the NHL as a third pairing right shot defenseman, but there's going to need to be some work there. He was frankly one of the Oilers' better defense prospects, but he was not a prospect that was drafted by the current regime. So it's just simply the cost of doing business. A second and a fourth and a prospect, and then another prospect to get another team to eat some money. 100% I do that, given where Edmonton's at. They're in the win now mode. They have an identifiable need. It was in evidence as Edmonton went through Washington, and specifically against Washington, who've got bigger, heavier, tougher teams, that the Oilers lacked a little bit of size. So Frederic in the short term made a lot of sense.
I would have thought if the Oilers were making one move, it would have been on defense, probably on the right side to get somebody to play with Darnell Nurse. The fact that they go out ahead of the deadline and get a bottom six center, does that tell you that they feel they can make another move? And do they know any more on Evander Kane?
The Evander Kane situation remains fluid. Let's establish that right now. Evander gave Stan Bowman and the management staff a 16-team list, and Stan's been working on that. And he's, that's obviously documented and out there. Any deal the Oilers make at this stage needs to be basically dollar in, dollar out, and that's how they, put this deal together to get Frederic. But I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't think Edmonton's done. I still think there's going to be an effort to add a defenseman, either a third pairing left shot guy that has played at least 17 minutes a game this year, because they can move Kulak over to the right side if they need to. They've had Klingberg here, and they're really comfortable with Ty Emerson and the third pairing on the right side, and obviously Bouchard's their first pairing guy. So today, there's going to be a lot of Oilers fans excited with the addition, but I don't think for a second that Stan Bowman has done here trying to improve the team.
If you had an ideal secondary move for this team, who would it be?
If we're looking, again, the Kane situation's a big one. But if you're, I'm being pragmatic, right? Like Rasmus Anderson is down in Calgary. He's a really good right shot defenseman. The Flames are not trading him to Edmonton. In fact, the Flames aren't trading Rasmus Anderson. That's my guess is they keep him, and they might have a chance to make the playoffs. Like some people back in the fall would have said he would have been the ideal guy. So I think it's going to need to be either a pending UFA with a team prepared to eat a little bit of money, or maybe a defenseman with the year left that's fallen out of favor. You guys can scan through the notebook to figure that out, but I do think it's a guy that's playing 17 minutes plus a game, because I think they can play Kulak on the right side, and so it doesn't have to be a right shot, but there are some left shots out there that have played a fair amount of time on the right side in their career over the last 4 or 5 years, because most teams have usually, 4 lefties and 2 righties. So a lot of left-handed guys know how to play over on the right side. Was that evasive enough for you?
Yes.
Yes. Good work.
Well, do you think, somebody who has more term left and somebody that we've linked to the Oilers is on a team that they just did business with. Do you think that Brandon Carlo's name came up as the Oilers were talking with Boston, or is that not their kind of guy? Do they need somebody who maybe uses their size more?
I don't know if Brandon Carlo's name came up. I will tell you that for the 2015 draft, when Pete Chiarelli had just taken over the Edmonton Oilers, Edmonton made a trade where they moved a 16 and 33rd overall pick
Griffin Reinhart.
For Griffin Reinhart that obviously did not work out for the Oilers. Edmonton was going to take Joel Eriksson-Ek at 16, and they were going to take Brandon Carlo with the 33rd pick at that time. There's not a lot of the decision maker, like, Scott Housen was basically the number 2 under Mac T, and then Pete came in. So, I got Mac T on my show once a week, and he's down in the States right now, and Scott's running the American Hockey League. So, I don't know how many people are left from that, but there was certainly a belief at one time in Carlo's abilities. But again, I mean, you guys tell me. I mean, to me, this is a sign. The Frederic trade today is a sign from Boston that they recognize the position they're in, and they got to acquire some assets because they've been going for it for years and years and years, and they're just simply at a different place. The irony is, what's going on with Marchand? How far away is he? Do you guys know?
Week to week, apparently.
He's only got $1 million. He's only being paid a base $1 million this year, right, in real dollars. Like, if the Bruins halved him and you got another team to half him, that's a top 6 player that you get for $1.55 million on the cap. And it would cost the team that's quartering him, basically, after Boston halves him, less than $100,000. Like, that's a 6th-round pick. So, and I do think the Bruins would get a really good pick, obviously, for Marchand, but I think that most of the people in Boston would prefer seeing Brad, re-signing and retiring as a Bruin player, which I totally respect as well. But of all of the guys in the league, nobody has a deal like his, and he would be. And I'm a little concerned about the foot speed, but the gamesmanship, the moxie, the guy's a winner, and so that's the for teams that are really up against the cap. I think they were probably hoping maybe Boston was in a situation where, hey, I mean, Marchand could even join a team for the playoffs and turn around and re-sign in Boston next year, right? So that would be a player that I think a lot of teams that are cap challenged, and there are a lot of cap challenged teams, would have interest in.
Yeah, I just don't see the Bruins throwing in the towel that emphatically this year.
There you go.
But maybe I'm wrong.
You guys you're closer to it than I am, so you would know there for sure.
Is it safe to assume now that the Oilers are going to head into the playoffs with Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard as the goalie tandem? And what is your confidence level if that's the case?
I would say to you that if Edmonton makes another trade, I think it's going to be for a defenseman. So I do think the tandem's going to be Skinner and Pickard. Pickard's getting a second consecutive start tonight. It's the first time this season that's happened. In fact, it's the first time it's happened since Game 4 and Game 5 of the Vancouver series, after which Stuart Skinner came back and responded very positively. The Oilers moved out guys that were Oilers. Ryan McLeod. Then they lost Holloway and Broberg on the offer sheets. Holloway in particular probably could have been avoidable. Maybe it was inevitable in case of Broberg. I think there's something to be said for guys that you draft and develop and grow in your own organization. And you need to understand this, that life doesn't move in one continuous upwardly fashion. There's going to be some hiccups in the journey along the way. So, I think in the short term, at least for this playoff run, I think that Stuart Skinner, a 26-year-old goaltender, Edmonton's going to stick with him. That's my guess. I just don't think, I think they want to improve the defense a bit, and I think they wanted to add some size up front. They've taken the first step to that by adding Trent Frederic today.
Well, Bob, you're the best. We'll be listening every night. Thank you so much for jumping on with us at a moment's notice. We love you, man.
Okay, just wanted to say hi from the Hall of Fame room here, guys. So this is Wayne Gretzky's old dressing room, literally, right here. This is the Great One's room, if you can see it. So that's his
soon
old
to be replaced by Trent Frederic's locker.
Are there pizza crusts there, or empty
What's
bags
that?
of candy? Are there like hot dogs laying around?
No. There's have you guys been in here before? I think you guys have, right?
I have.
I have not.
Yeah. There you go. There's all the legends from
Amazing.
All right, guys. Super. Thanks a lot.
You're the
Bye,
best.
Bob. See you soon.
Yeah.
And we will see him soon. We will be in Edmonton later on in the month. More details there. More trade stuff coming throughout the week. Make sure you are subscribed here on the YouTube page, and we will have a 24-hour trade deadline show that kicks off Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. It will go through the trade deadline on Friday, and even a couple hours after that. Make sure you are here.
We all silly like the mayor.